Part 90. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 918. 1 Update. Dad. Wan Yuqian looked at her father flatteringly. Why don't you ask the doctor for help? What if it's possible? Anyway, Qianji Unming is also the father of 2 children. I didn't see him for the last time. It's really hard to live with. If it weren't for him, how could you be lying on the bed now? Mr. Wan glared at her helplessly. You kid, why are you so stubborn? I've already promised you to send him on his last journey, so why do you go so far? Even if you are a god, it is impossible for you to get out of bed tomorrow. You should give up this idea as soon as possible and recover peacefully. Otherwise, don't even think about giving him a ride. Dad. Wan Yuqian stared at Mr. Wan without giving up. Dad, why don't you ask? If the doctor says no, I won't think about it again, okay? You. Mr. Wan was really at his wit's end, so he had no choice but to agree. Thank you, Dad. Can you go now? Wan Yuqian is really pushing her limits now. She still understands her father's character. As long as he agrees, he will definitely do his best. There is absolutely no such thing as agreeing but perfunctory her. Son. Mr. Wan looked at her helplessly. Hey. Dad, no matter whether I was right or wrong in the past, at this point, I don't want to pursue it anymore. I will only see him this once in my life. If I miss it, I will miss it forever. He was the man I truly fell in love with, and although he later let me down, I had devoted my whole life to him until this moment. It can be regarded as an explanation for myself. Dad, I promise you. The reason I am so persistent now is not that I can't let go of this relationship. To be honest, the deep feelings I have had until now are almost gone. And the reason why I am like this is a nostalgia for our past, a nostalgia for the good days we once had, and an explanation for the children. Okay, no need to explain. Mr. Wan interrupted her, turned around and walked out. If you need anything, just ring the bedside alarm and I'll go ask you now, okay? Thanks, Dad. Mr. Wan shook his head and quickly disappeared out the door. Wan Yuqian was lying on the bed, staring blankly at the roof, tears falling continuously. Ever since she learned the news of her husband's death, she had been trying to control her emotions. Actually, she insisted that her father ask if she could get out of bed and move around tomorrow. She also knew that it was impossible. She just wanted to get rid of the old man and give herself some time alone to vent her emotions. Her father has been worrying about her all his life. Sad for her, at this time, she didn't want her father to worry about her. Even if she misses her husband, even if she can't let him go, he must never let his father see it. People, or this is what they are like. Before it fell apart, she felt that even if Qianji Unming died in front of her, she would never shed a tear. However, it was at this time that she realized that these emotions were not something she could control at all. Tears and sadness were simply not something she could control. It is true that Qianji Unming died because he missed her, which restored some of his lost feelings. However, fundamentally speaking, it was the love that she had accumulated over the past few years that she had almost ignored that controlled her emotions. In fact, she knew very well that if the tragedy had not happened, she and Qianji Unming would not have been together. Qianji Unming realized that she was good, not because he really thought she was good, but because he suddenly got closer to Yao Xingqing and discovered the bad side of her, so he reflexively compared her with her. If she really comes back to him, he will definitely change his attitude towards her immediately, and his attitude towards her will immediately return to before. He has such a character. When he is close, he ignores you. When he is far away, he is afraid that you will ignore him. To put it bluntly, he is a narcissistic, arrogant, and insecure man. This also had a lot to do with his living environment. When he was young, the Qian family had a very difficult life. Later, when he met her and got some convenience secretly, the Qian family finally made a big turn around. However, for him, such a big reversal was insecure, so over the years, he had been hot and cold towards her. Whenever she wanted to stay away, he would immediately find someone else to wait for her to settle down. He would make trouble again. This kind of pattern would make her think about it and make her sad at first, but later it became a habit. If the Qian family had not fallen in with the wrong person this time, and saw that she had completely angered her father and had no chance of making a comeback, Qian Jianming would not have dared to have a real showdown with her. Or maybe this showdown was a milestone for him. He had never dared to take action before, but today, he finally did it. However, people are so mean-spirited. When they really do it, they regret it when they find that it is not what they imagined. And this regret indirectly caused him to lose his life. At first, she found Yao Xingqing's behavior extremely unreasonable, but now, she can understand what he did. All emotions are pinned on one person. When there is no hope and hope, there is nothing surprising in doing such extreme things. There is a devil and an angel living in everyone's heart. Some people will be controlled by angels when they reach a desperate situation. Some people will be controlled by the devil when they reach a desperate situation. Or maybe Yao Xingqing regrets doing such a thing now, right? Dong dong dong. Dong dong dong. Several consecutive knocks on the door finally brought Wan Yuqian back to her senses. "Come in," a weak voice responded. She looked towards the door. The door opened and sister-in-law Yan came in carrying 2 thermos buckets. Seeing that she was alone, surprise flashed across her expression, and she stepped forward quickly. "Is there anything you can do to help?" "No," Wan Yuqian smiled at her, "thank you." "No. You're welcome." She had never been treated with this attitude before, and Ms Yan's behavior was obviously abnormal. "Member Yulan made the soup, and I fried the vegetables." After opening the lunch box and saying a few words, she suddenly realized that Wan Yuqian couldn't eat yet. Sister-in-law Yan paused, smiled sheepishly, and couldn't help but smile for a moment. "Know what to say? I'll smell it first. If there's good food to tempt me, I'll definitely get better quickly." Wan Yuqian stretched her head to look at it as she spoke. "Aunt Yin, look at the presentation, you're doing really well with this dish." Noticing the other party's name, Ms Yin sniffed quietly and held back the tears that came to her eyes. However, she did not dare to raise her head for fear that her red eyes would be seen by the other party, so she had to lower her head and fiddle with the lunch box. "Aunt Yin." Wan Yuqian called again, stretching her free hand forward, "Come over and sit down and talk to me for a while, okay?" "Okay." In response, Aunt Yin quickly wiped the corners of her eyes when she turned back to move the stool. When she turned back, her mood had calmed down a lot. "I have to say sorry to you first." Wan Yuqian looked at her steadily. "You have been taking care of my father all these years. In fact, I am very grateful, but I have always pretended to be special. I hate the way you look and do all kinds of things that hurt your self-esteem. In fact, every time I do it, I feel very uncomfortable, but I have no other way, otherwise, my father will not believe that I have become so good, and he will not make up his mind not to help me at all." "No," sister-in-law Yan interrupted her quickly, "he didn't help you not because you were bad to him, but because he felt that the thing you asked for help embarrassed him. He told me that no matter how you treat him, he actually wants to help you within his ability. However, he has never found a direction that can really help you. You really know my father very well." Wan Yuqian smiled and continued, "Actually, to be honest, when I first saw the tacit understanding between you and my father, I didn't like it. In my impression, the relationship between my father and my mother is very good. I can't accept that he fell in love with another woman and was good to another woman after my mother passed away. Therefore, My feelings towards you are particularly contradictory. I am grateful to you, but also some would hate you. I feel that you have destroyed the purest relationship between my father and my mother. But now I feel that I was still too narrow-minded in the past. I believe that my father has never forgotten my mother, and he also really has feelings for you. In this life, it is a very happy thing to meet a partner who truly understands you and can chat with you. From this point of view, although my father has suffered so much, God is still very kind to him. My father and my mother used to get along very well with each other, and they were very good at tempering each other. Now my father and you are like this again. With you by his side, he will definitely have a very, very beautiful later life. You mean? Sister-in-law Yin looked at Wan Yuqian in disbelief. If she understood correctly, did the other party agree to her marrying Mr. Wan? Is it so simple to agree? In fact, her mind just didn't turn around. Wan Yuqian was just pretending originally, so a large part of the opposition was also pretending. Now that everything has returned to its true nature, naturally she won't be as repulsive as before. Yes, I mean, you and my father are not young anymore, so don't delay it. After I am discharged from the hospital, I will help you arrange your marriage, okay? Wan Yuqian's smiling look blurred a little bit in front of Mrs. Yin. She bit her lip tightly and couldn't say a word. Yuqian. Mr. Wan opened the door and came in, his eyes full of emotion. I heard everything, but now I am busy with your business. Your Aunt Yin and I will wait for a while. Unfinished, to be continued, /T. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 919. Second update. Dad, you have to wait a little longer because you have me and Yan Yan by your side. But where is Aunt Yin? How uncomfortable would it be to live in someone else's house all the time? Wan Yuqian glared at her father and smiled again. Looking at Aunt Yin, Aunt, I have made the decision on this matter. As soon as I am discharged from the hospital, I will take care of this matter for you. If you don't agree, you think I am in the way, then I will take Yan Yan and move out immediately. You. Sister-in-law Yin looked at Mr. Wan with an embarrassed look. The situation suddenly progressed so quickly without any mental preparation. She really didn't know how to deal with it. Then just listen to Yuqian. Mr. Wan smiled at sister-in-law Yin, then looked at his daughter, but we have to wait until you feel better and get Dekan back. Dad. Wan Yuqian smiled bitterly, I want to bring Dekan back, but my father-in-law and mother-in-law will definitely not agree, otherwise, they would not have made such a decision back then. I was not allowed to see Dekan before we had a falling out. Now that Jianji Unming is gone, they are even less likely to let Dekan live with me. I am satisfied if we can meet occasionally. Yuqian. Mr. Wan looked at his daughter sternly, you have become accustomed to being bullied by them. Dekan is your biological son, and it is natural for you to raise him. If they come back to mess around again, we will go through legal procedures and file a lawsuit with them. We will not bully others. They are willing to litigate in a disciplined manner, and we will also litigate in a disciplined manner. If they dare to play dirty tricks, we will also. I will never stand there openly waiting to be tricked by them. Don't worry about this yet. Dad is here to help you. When will Dekan come back to you? When will you arrange the marriage for Dad? At this point, Mr. Wan looked at Aunt Yin. Don't worry, it won't take too long. It doesn't matter if it takes a long time. Sister-in-law Yin looked embarrassed. She said this as if she was eager to enter the Wan family. Can this old man pay attention to the impact of his words? Aunt Yin, you are so talkative. Wan Yuqian sighed helplessly and looked at her father. Dad, let's each take a step back. You can take care of Dekan's affairs. However, whether I can get him back to me or not, it will only take 1 month. After 1 month, I will start to help you and Aunt Yin choose a date for the wedding. By the time, friends who have a good relationship with Dad will be invited over. My friends who have a good relationship with me will also be invited over, although. She smiled sheepishly. Although I don't have many close friends, we have been dating for so many years. Those who come down are all very tough. If they find out that Dad and I reconciled, I will definitely be very, very happy when the time comes. We must let them join in the excitement and joy. Okay. I'll do as you say. Mr. Wan looked at Aunt Yin, then please take care of Yukian here. I'll go to Jian's house first to check out the situation. Jian Jianming is Yukian's husband. Something happened to him, and Yukian couldn't get out of bed. As a father, I should help him, and then talk about Dickens' matter. Anyway, let's be polite first and then fight. If we can solve the problem politely, that would be the best thing. If they insist on breaking up, let's fight together. Sister-in-law Yin nodded, okay, I'm here, you can go about your business without worries. Yukian, you have known Sister Yin for just a day. If you have anything to do, just tell her the truth. Wan Yukian interrupted her father with a look of helplessness, Dad, you don't need to tell me this. I know how to do it, but you haven't told me what the doctor said. Do you even need to ask this? When his daughter asked this question, Mr. Wan glared at her hatefully. Director Chin looked at me like I was an idiot, and when I asked, I felt like an idiot because he is a doctor. I'm not a god. Don't you think I'm going to make things difficult for others? Wan Yukian smiled coquettishly, then when did he say he could get out of bed? It will take at least 3 days. However, you can't walk more at that time. After 5 days, you can walk for half an hour at a time. Sighing, Mr. Wan looked at his daughter seriously, the unshakable thing is not here. On that day, even if you can't go then, you can go see him later and tell him what you want to say. According to what Yao Xingqing said, Qian Jianming is thinking about you and the children, so he should be looking forward to your mother's happiness. I won't say more about the rest. You can figure it out for yourself. Dad, I know. Wan Yukian nodded, and her expression became serious. Dad, don't worry, I will cherish my body and will never do anything extreme because of Qian Jianming. I will never let myself be an irresponsible daughter and mother. Let's eat first and then go. Sister-in-law Ying quickly brought over the insulated lunchbox. The Qian family probably doesn't care about the details at the moment. Only when you have a good body can you do things efficiently. Okay, Mr. Wan thought for a moment, then simply stacked the lunch boxes together, picked them up and walked out. I'll go find Director Chin to have dinner with him. After eating, I'll go directly to Qian's house. After thinking about it, he turned back to look at Yin's sister-in-law. If I can't come back at night, it will be hard on you. Okay, don't be so polite to me. Sister-in-law Yin looked at him helplessly. You look like this, I really have to think carefully about whether to marry you. Mr. Wan shook his head with a smile, turned around and went out. When he came to the hospital again in early summer, he happened to meet Mr. Wan, who was carrying a lunchbox to Qin Heng's office, so he took a few steps to catch up. Grandpa Wan, why are you going? Xia. Mr. Wan turned around and was stunned when he saw the lunchbox in Chu Xia's hand. He raised the lunchbox in his hand and said, Sister-in-law Yin has already delivered it, why are you delivering it again? Grandpa, he. Chu Xia smiled sarcastically, this is for my father-in-law. Your father-in-law is also in this hospital. Mr. Wan frowned, what happened to him? Why didn't I hear that he was hospitalized? When did this happen? My father-in-law is fine, he is here to take care of others. Chu Xia regretted calling Mr. Wan just now. In fact, she just called out of habit, eh? Who are you taking care of? Mr. Wan continued to ask. Take care of me. Chu Xia changed the subject again, how is Aunt Wan doing now? I want to go over and see her later. Is Aunt Yin accompanying her now? Well, your Aunt Yin is there to accompany you. Mr. Wan unconsciously stroked his forehead. His daughter is called Aunt Yin, and his goddaughter is also called Aunt Yin. Isn't this confusing? Oh, that's good. I'll come over to see her in a while. By the way, Grandpa, you want to have dinner with Director Chin. Chu Xia said while nudging the old man, then go quickly, don't the food is cold. What are you hiding from, kid? Mr. Wan stared at her. The person your father-in-law is accompanying is Xiaomi, right? Ah, Chu Xia stared blankly. How do you know? Do you really think I'm confused? Mr. Wan was speechless. When you came to the hospital in the morning, you were quite normal, but later on, you came in and out one by one. Do you think I really didn't notice? I was really confused at that time, so I didn't ask any more questions. I also wondered if you were hiding out on purpose to prevent the room from being so crowded. When I saw you now, I knew your number. Everyone ran out to see Xiaomi, right? You didn't tell me because you were afraid that I wouldn't be able to separate, and you would worry too much, right? The old man sighed. Or do you feel that you are separated and separated by a layer? No, 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 Chu Xia hurriedly defended. No matter how long we have been apart, I can't be separated from you. I didn't say it at the time, just because I felt that Antoine needed you more, and I didn't want you to worry too much. Don't worry, Zhou Mikang is fine. The doctor has said that he is actually tired and needs to rest. He will recover in 3 to 5 days. Making it up again, Mr. Wan glared at her with dissatisfaction. If it's really like what you said, you still need your father-in-law to come to bed with you. What I said is true, not made up. Chu Xia looked at the old man with a grieved face. It's just that Zhou Mikang hasn't woken up now. When he wakes up, nothing will really happen. The doctor really, that's what he said. If you don't believe me, I can take you there and you can ask the doctor yourself. Mr. Wan waved his hand impatiently. Okay, stop being wordy and take me to see Xiaomi first. I will work with you to give your portion of the meal to Director Chin, and then. Chu Xia raised the thermos bucket in her hand. You and my father-in-law can eat the portion I brought with me, okay. This time, Mr. Wan finally did not deny Chu Xia's proposal. The two of them delivered the food to Qin Hung, then went upstairs to Zhou Mixang's room. Master Tongzi was still sleeping peacefully, and Zhou Jingping was sitting in a daze. When he saw Chu Xia and Mr. Wan pushing in the door, his brows furrowed slightly, and he quickly stood up and said hello, Uncle Wan. Hello, Mr. Wan answered and walked to the bedside. Although he was not a doctor, judging from his complexion, he felt that Zhou Mixang's condition should be pretty good, and he felt slightly better. Xia, you can ask someone else to deliver this meal. Unable to resist, Zhou Jingping still expressed his dissatisfaction with his daughter-in-law. In your current situation, you should protect yourself first. Xiaomi has already given us enough to worry about. Just let us save our worries, okay? Okay. Chu Xia put down the thermos bucket and smiled apologetically at Zhou Jingping. I just wanted to come and see him. There has been no news for so long, and I have been worried. Although I have seen him now, he won't wake up, and I can't let go of him. If you let me see him every day, I can feel more at ease, and it will also be good for the baby. To be continued. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 920. The two chapters are combined together, which makes it more coherent. The wine table was set up on the bed, and a dozen strong young men stood in a circle around the wedding bed. The bride and groom were circled in the middle of the bed, while the best man and bridesmaid were separated from the circle. They wanted to touch each other several times. He went to bed to protect the bride and groom, but was blocked back without a sound. According to custom, the table should be placed on the kong, but there was no earthen kong in the Zhou family's mansion. In order to have a good time, these people forcibly lifted the table onto the bed. Normally, no one would dare to stroke Zhou Mixang's beard like this, but today, no matter how much trouble they made, the groom could not be annoyed or take revenge afterwards. They are not stupid, how could they miss such a good opportunity? Among the crowd, the leaders were two tall and strong soldiers. They looked to be in their mid-20s, dark and strong. Seeing Chu Xia looking at them, Zhou Mikang introduced, "This is Qiao Jingjun, this is Luo Jiaoqiang. He lives in the same compound as us and was beaten up by me. Now, it is understandable that he would be given chicken blood." Chu Xia nodded, "I understand." He leaned back slightly and hid behind Zhou Mikang. "Every wrong has its own debtor, so don't find the wrong person." "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect her to say such a thing." After a short silence, she burst into laughter. Zhou Huikang, who was blocked outside, laughed and shook his head. "I finally understand why the third brother likes the third sister-in-law." Luo Xiaoxian didn't understand the meaning of his words, so she asked, "What do you mean? Third sister-in-law is not afraid of third brother. She has become his wife, what is there to be afraid of?" Zhou Huikang smiled and shook his head without explaining anything. But after all, she was not familiar with Zhou Huikang, so Luo Xiaoxian couldn't forcefully ask him. But in my heart, I was as curious as a cat scratching my head. A best friend can marry into such a family. Of course she was happy for her, but more importantly, she was worried. At that time, when she saw Zhou Jiping and Zhou Xiangping protecting Chu Xia, she was sincerely happy for Chu Xia. Now, Zhou Huikang's words actually aroused the worries in her heart again. On Zhou Mikang's terms, he wanted to marry a lovely wife. It's so easy. Chu Xia's conditions were not bad, but they were definitely not so good that Zhou Mikang I would not marry her. After following Dean Su, she learned more and more about the conditions for marrying a wife from a wealthy family. Without any special reasons, it would be absolutely impossible for Chu Xia to marry into the Zhou family. The special reason for the Zhou family is that Zhou Mikang has always refused to marry a wife. Although he was a little desperate in hoping that he would get a wife, he finally relaxed. "How can you be picky? It is true that I am afraid that he will regret it. However, as time goes by, are the Zhou family still so uncritical of Chu Xia? Even if they don't want to be picky themselves, the external environment will force them to be picky. So, under this situation, Zhou Mixang's attitude is very important if he wants to live comfortably in the Zhou family in early summer." She had asked Chu Xia, "When did you meet Zhou Mikang's eyes?" In the end, the silly girl said that there was no problem of seeing each other in the right eye. It was Zhou Mikang who decided to get married because he didn't want to be nagged by his boss at home anymore. The reason for choosing her is also very simple. He can give her family enough help, so that he will not feel guilty. As for choosing her forcibly, it's probably because he's too lazy to look for such a suitable guilt-free target. She felt sour when hearing Chu Xia's explanation. What if Captain Zhou married her because he really liked Chu Xia? Because of this, after Zhou Huikang said the words "third brother likes third sister-in-law," she was so entangled in trying to figure out what Zhou Mikang liked about Chu Xia. Ha ha ha. Luo Xiaoxiang's thoughts were brought back by the burst of laughter from everyone, and then she couldn't stop laughing. Qiao Jingjun was sitting cross-legged on the bed, with his hands stretched out, holding a glass full of wine on each knee. Opposite him, Zhou Mikang stared at him with a ruler, and if you spill a drop of wine, you will slap his hand with a ruler. Which bridal chamber is this causing trouble for? Inexplicably, the worries in Luo Xiaoxiang's heart faded a little. If it was really just a marriage of equal value, how could she do such a thing to protect her bride? Although she didn't see the cause, She knew after thinking about it that Jiao Jingjun must have wanted to torment the bride in this way, but in the end, Zhou Mikang did it instead. Third brother, my dear brother, please spare me, can you, Jiao Jingjun, whose face turned red from the laughter of everyone, begged Zhou Mikang with a grimace. Zhou Mikang then picked up a bottle of white wine on the table and said, I can spare you. I can drink this bottle of wine in one go. It's better to be drunk than to be so embarrassed. He is not a bride, but the third brother is too evil. Why didn't he realize before that besides having a bad temper, he was also so evil? Jiao Jingjun cursed in his heart, grabbed the wine bottle, raised his neck without any hesitation, and poured a bottle of strong wine into his stomach. The moment he put down the wine bottle, he began to shake it. Then, without saying a word, he fell on the bed with a gudong and breathed out. Zhou Mikang waved his hands in disgust, carry it away, this is the bed he can lie on. Yes, this bed is the new bed of the third brother and the third sister-in-law. How can he be allowed to lie around? Luo Zhaoqiang heckled and moved forward, with a look of eagerness on his face. It seems that you also want to drink something. Zhou Mikang reached out and patted his shoulder. Brother kindly advises you, your drinking capacity is not comparable to that of Jingjun, so you'd better not be embarrassed. Third brother, are you looking down on others? Luo Zhaoqiang is about 185, with dark complexion and a grin, with his white teeth particularly conspicuous. Zhou Mixang looked at him leisurely. What do you want to play? Chu Xia, who was hiding behind Zhou Mikang, looked excited. Her mother-in-law Lin Yangqiu had given her a vaccination before, saying that the more people making trouble, the happier the couple would be, so don't bother those who come to make trouble at the wedding, and give them some sweetness, just follow them and complete their instructions, which can not only create a good reputation, but also have a good omen. Originally, she thought she was going to suffer something, but it turned out. There was a commotion in the bridal chamber, but it was someone else who suffered. This was such a surprise to her. Third brother, let's make a fuss in the bridal chamber. The point is, if you don't let it happen, what's the point? Why didn't I let it happen? You, Luo Zhaoqiang chuckled, what you did just now made it clear that you didn't want to cause trouble. When Jiao Jingjun took action just now, Zhou Mikang demanded that the bridal chamber must be fair, and that one cannot unilaterally make trouble as he wants. The method is to decide the winner or loser by wrestling. If you lose, you should demonstrate what you want to make a fuss about. Jiao Jingjun probably felt that he was tall and strong, and he was in the training period. It was not a problem to win against Zhou Mikang, so he agreed. As a result, Jiao Jingjun himself demonstrated what he wanted the bride to do. At this time, Luo Zhaoqiang had learned a lot and used this to provoke Zhou Mixang. I'm not letting you make trouble. I'm not letting you make trouble. If you want to make trouble with my wife, you can. Go through me first. No matter what other people's rules are, you must follow my rules anyway. Zhou Mikang's appearance determined the appearance of Chu Xia. Luo Zhaoqiang was stunned for a long time with his mouth half open, and then he raised his thumb. Third brother. Brother, I am impressed by you, the only brother in our circle. No one dares to speak like this. You said this is just spreading. Those who know say you are protecting the third sister-in-law, but those who don't know think you are afraid of the third sister-in-law. Is there a difference between protecting and being afraid? Don't skip the word. Luo Zhaoqiang didn't know what to say. With such a clumsy attitude, he couldn't find the right words to refute, so he looked for help at the people gathered in a circle. A handsome-looking man spoke, let's move on to the next item, come on, bring in the apples. Obviously, what he means is that if the bride alone is not allowed to make trouble, then choose a traditional program where the bride and groom make trouble together. This time, Zhou Mikang didn't raise any objections. Chu Xia also cooperated and moved forward, giving favors in return. Zhou Mikang protected her. Of course, she also had to protect the other person's face. She was shy and so on. For her from the 21st century, is it a problem? As the apple hung up, Luo Jiaoqiang kept shaking his wrist intentionally. Unfortunately, is Zhou Mikang stupid? Seeing the opportunity, he bit into the apple and let the other party shake it even if he wanted to. If it weren't for the bad connotation of not having a wedding, he wouldn't be too lazy to do such a childish action. It would be right to go out with a bunch of them. Embarrassing. Similar to this kind of unchallenging traditional project, after repeated defeats, everyone temporarily retreated to a corner and gathered their heads to discuss countermeasures. In other words, the bride and groom did not make trouble, but they were made trouble. When word spread, there do you still want face? Taking advantage of this moment, Luo Xiaoqiang and Zhou Huikang, who had been kept out of the circle, quickly came to protect the bride and groom. When everyone came back, they pushed the shy Suyan to the front. Third brother, third sister-in-law, we all want to know about the love experiences of third brother and third sister-in-law. Suyan's face turned red and he spoke out the result of the discussion in a hushed voice. Obviously, they couldn't find a suitable cause for trouble, and they were unwilling to die down like this, so they decided to dig deeper for news with selling points. Why recommend Suyan? If it were anyone else, Zhou Mikang might have rejected him without even thinking about it, but for Suyan, who was as shy as a girl, she had to worry about his mood. Zhou Mikang stared at Suyan helplessly. Silly boy, you are being used as a gun, do you know? I know. Suyan was very honest. Then why do you still listen to them? Because Suyan looked around carefully and said with a red face, I have never been so valued by everyone. Yes, this means that one is willing to fight and the other is willing to suffer. Zhou Mikang's eyes fell on the handsome man's face. Suchun, was this idea yours? Quite a few words. Yes, Suchun admitted bachelorly. Third brother, if you have the nerve to hurt Xiao Yan's sensitive little heart, just keep it secret. We will not force third sister-in-law. I have wanted to marry Lin Chuxia since the first time I saw her. Zhou Mikang waved his hands like shooing away flies after saying this. Okay, if you still want to have a drink, I will go out with you for a drink. When Zhou Mikang wants to do something, no one can stop him. Therefore, no matter whether they like it or not, 3 minutes later, a group of people were pushed out of the new house by Zhou Mikang. The only thing that comforted them was that the groom actually came to the hall with them to fulfill his promise, to have a drink with them. By the way, do they rarely want to have a drink with him? Such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Just missed it? Those who dared to be angry but dared not speak could only murmur in their hearts. He absolutely did not dare to question him. The bridal chamber was really noisy. Looking at the room that was suddenly empty, Luo Xiaoqiang shook her head. Funny, Chu Xia, I suddenly feel that the reason why Captain Zhou married you is definitely not what you thought. I hope so. Chu Xia lazily leaned on the bedside. After this day, even though she didn't have much trouble, she was tired. Zhou Jiping, Zhou Xiangping, and Su Yan's sister Su Shuxian opened the door and walked in. Seeing Chu Xia's appearance, Su Shuxian stepped forward and dragged Luo Xiaoqiang. Let's go. Let's take you to rest and let sister-in-law rest early too. After thinking about it, she really didn't need to stay here anymore, so Luo Xiaoqiang squeezed Chu Xia's little hand comfortingly and said, I'm tired too, so I won't accompany you. Chu Xia nodded and looked at the Zhou sisters. Xiaoqiang will be taken care of by you. Don't worry, we will definitely take good care of her, Zhou Jiping said as she pushed a few people out to the door. He happened to bump into Zhou Mikang, who was returning. After a burst of laughter, the room became calm. With flowers and candles in the wedding room, these words flashed through Chu Xia's mind. His little heart started beating wildly, uncontrollably, and his face turned red in order to cover up his embarrassment. She quickly got out of bed. I'm going to take a shower then. He scurried into the bathroom like a rabbit. What to do? What to do? The water in the bathtub ran out, and Chusia was still sitting there like a thinker. If it is a marriage of extreme love. Everything that happened next was a matter of course, but she and Jo Mikang obviously didn't agree to this condition, so she felt very resistant to letting her be with a man she didn't love. Moreover, they had never even held hands, let alone other intimate actions. This time, they entered the final stage, and Chusia shivered unconsciously. "Auntie, why don't you come?" Alas, if my aunt was here, this matter could have been put off in a matter-of-fact way. In early summer, I have never looked forward to my aunt's arrival as much as now. Unfortunately, this matter seems to be beyond human control. Touching the goosebumps on her arms, and thinking about it again, she suddenly felt so cold. I took off my clothes 3 times, soaked myself in the bathtub, and finally felt a little more comfortable. Half an hour later, she was still soaking in the bathtub in the same position as before. As for her thoughts, she didn't know where she had drifted to outer space. Jo Mikang's mood at this time was not much calmer than that in early summer. During the few years he had been with Yamiru, he had always adhered to the etiquette of a gentleman. At a young age, he was able to control himself. It must be said that he was a man with great willpower. That drunken promiscuity was his only intimate contact with a woman, but he had no memory of it, so even though he was 27 years old, he had no experience in this area. Of course he was embarrassed to ask others for advice on this kind of thing. A few days ago, he secretly went to the library to look up information on this subject. Everyone has this instinct. Of course, he did this because he didn't want to hurt his little self so much. He forced himself to marry his wife. His heart was beating hard since she entered the bathroom. Of course he knew what others would say about him when he forcibly drove away the bride-to-be, but he didn't care. He had always been the stronger one in this marriage. From now on, he would do his best to protect her. No harm, no matter what. After pacing back and forth outside for a long time, he suddenly realized that there seemed to be no sound in the bathroom. After listening for a while, he hurriedly knocked on the bathroom door. "Lin Chuxia? Lin Chuxia?" After shouting several times and getting no response, Jo Mixang became anxious. He knew that the girl was a little repulsive to him. If she wanted to escape from him, she couldn't come out, but she fell asleep in the bathtub. Chuxia, who was lying in the bathtub in a daze, was shocked by the sudden weightlessness and found that she was being held in Jo Mikang's arms, and blood suddenly rushed to the top of her head. You, what are you doing?" The moment he hugged Chuxia, Jo Mikang also realized that she was just distracted. There's actually no danger, it turns out. Before he could put her back down, she came to her senses. Then, looking at the beautiful and sexy breast in his arms, his heart became confused. Being yelled at by Chuxia angrily, he felt a little guilty when he recovered from the mess, but he didn't forget to continue pretending to be a big-tailed wolf. "I called you and you didn't respond for a long time, and when I came in, I saw you staring dumbly." He stared blankly at the ceiling without moving. "Don't scare people like this in the future." Is he still reasonable? Chuxia's face turned red with anger, but she also realized that there was something wrong with her, and even more so. "Now is not the time to pursue. Put me down quickly, get out." Is the leader Tongza so obedient? Do not make jokes. What are you putting in? The water is cold, the group leader Tongza shouted confidently, grabbed the big bath towel, wrapped the person in his arms, and left the bathroom. "I haven't finished washing yet," Chuxia gasped anxiously. "Go to bed and wait. I'll put the water on for you and put in hot water before washing. I'll wash you. If you do this again, I'll scare you into having a heart attack." Chuxia stared blankly at someone entering the bathroom, and then shouted for a long time, "I won't wash anymore. I was so tired and sleepy that I fell asleep." What a joke. Let him wash her? Kill her. The group leader Zhongzi entered the bathroom and watched someone pull up the quilt and wrap himself in it. The brows wrinkle unconsciously. I don't wash it if I don't wash it, and I go to bed with my hair wet. Do you think you are too healthy? As he spoke, he returned to the bed, took the hairdryer and plugged it in, and said in a commanding tone, "Come here." No need. The big bag under the quilt squirmed. I fell asleep. You are still talking while you are asleep? Are you obedient? Come out quickly, or I will dig you out. Knowing that the leader's Wangzi was not trying to scare her, Shuxia quickly stuck her head out of the bed and said, I'm good at it myself. I can use a hair dryer. Is the leader of the group so easy to compromise? Do not make jokes. Come over. Chu Xia smiled pitifully. I won't lie to you, I can blow it myself. Really, go ahead and brush your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth at night, you will easily get tartar. If your teeth are good, your appetite will be good. If your teeth are bad, your appetite will be bad. If it's not good, your health will be bad. The group leader interrupted someone who was suffering from Tang Monk's verbose syndrome. Come here. There was already more impatience in his tone. He rolled his eyes, wrapped himself in a quilt and moved to the edge of the bed. He firmly grasped the corner of the quilt with both hands and sat down, stretching his head in front of the leader. Hoo ho ho. The only sound in the room was the sound of the hair dryer. Chu Xia, who was originally full of resentment, gradually warmed up in her heart. Although he was cruel to her, everything he did was really for her good. No matter what the reason was, she had married him, so she should put it away. Rejection in my heart, just go on with him. Thinking of this, her smile became more natural. Is this your first time blowing someone's hair? Quite a few words. No wonder he's so clumsy. Snort. Thank you. Snort. Why are you still humiliating me like this when I thank you? I am your husband. I understand, you are saying that you are my husband and you should do whatever you do for me. I shouldn't say thank you, right? The group leader, Tongzi, responded with silence. Chu Xia continued, we just got married, and I haven't gotten used to it yet. I want to thank you. It's not about you blow drying my hair. I want to thank you for protecting me tonight. I know that if you do that, you will be laughed at in the future. Generally speaking, grown men who care about face are very concerned about this kind of thing. However, you still did it? I am particularly touched, so, thanks. There was a hint of smile in the leader's eyes, but he still snorted arrogantly, I'll try if you dare to laugh at me. As he spoke, he turned off the hairdryer and pulled Chu Xia's hair with his hands. Now that your hair is dry, lie back and I'll take a shower. Yeah, Chu Xia responded. After the door of the bathroom was closed, she quickly ran out of bed, opened the cupboard and took out a set of cotton pajamas, and put them on her body. He breathed a long sigh of relief, and then his face became bitter again. The test was still to come. The sound of running water sounded in the bathroom. 5 minutes later, the bathroom door opened, and the leader came out with a large bath towel wrapped around his waist, wiping his wet hair. Chu Xia, who secretly peeked through the seam of his hand, discovered that the regiment leader Tongzi looked very calm on the surface, but if you look closely, you will find that his facial expression is obviously a little stiff. Aha, the group leader is also nervous. In an instant, Chu Xia's tube was balanced, and he simply sat up generously. You still have the nerve to lecture me, are you thinking of catching a cold? To be continued. Chapter 201 Wife Protecting / Tsundere Duo, 2 chapters in 1. Chapter 201 Wife Protecting / Tsundere Duo, 2 chapters in 1, asterisk. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 921. At midnight, everything is silent. On the warm double bed, mother and daughter hugged each other and slept soundly. Suddenly, the bedroom door was quietly pushed open from the outside, and a tall figure walked in gently. He walked to the bedside with a clear purpose and stood there. He leaned over and turned on the small lamp on the bedside, and put it next to Xiao Yan's ear. He whispered, "Bao." Unfortunately, Xiao Yan didn't respond. Su Jingqiao frowned slightly, carefully separated the hands of mother and daughter, picked up Xiao Yan, turned off the light, and left quietly. Returning to the master bedroom next door, lying on the bed with the baby in his arms, Su Jingqiao sighed spontaneously. Sleeping alone, with his lover by his side, even if he does nothing, is satisfied. After changing the environment, Xiao Yan turned over twice and touched the person beside her randomly with her hands. She felt something was wrong. She opened her eyes in a daze. "Belle, that's not right." "Husband." With surprise, she suddenly woke up and said, "Why are you on top of me? Where is Belle?" "Wrong, you are on our bed." Su Jingqiao smiled, his thin lips slightly hooked, his eyes full of teasing. Xiao Yan looked around and frowned slightly. "What's going on? Am I sleepwalking? I remember, I was obviously with Baer." At this point, an idea suddenly flashed in her mind. "That's not right. It was you who smuggled me here again, right?" The man responded vaguely, neither denying nor admitting clearly, with an evil smile on his lips. "Is it better to sleep with me than with Belle? My arms can be your pillow and my body your quilt. Lots of benefits." Xiao Yan stared speechlessly. Can these be compared? Really, what if Belle wakes up and can't see me? It's okay. The little girl has already experienced it. She will come directly to find her mother. Su Jingqiao didn't take it seriously. As he spoke, he sat up and started to take off his pajamas. When Xiao Yan saw this, he immediately bit his lip. "What are you doing? It's so late, it's time to go to bed. And your grandfather?" She didn't know what to say and was a little dumbfounded. At 10 o'clock, when everyone was about to take a rest, the old man made a request that they were not allowed to have sex before marriage, and that Su Jingqiao was not allowed to follow in his father's footsteps and raise an illegitimate child outside. After hearing this, blood rushed to his forehead on the spot. "Bauer and I will never have an illegitimate child. Our child will definitely be a legitimate child. We have been sleeping together for a long time and have been husband and wife for 2 years. You don't want us to be together now sleeping, is it possible?" Snort. "If you don't listen to me, don't try to impress me." The old man had a firm attitude and snorted coldly. When Xiao Yan heard that there was something going on, he quickly grabbed Su Jingqiao's temper and responded with a sweet smile, "We listen to Grandpa. Grandpa, don't be angry. As long as you agree to our marriage, we will promise you anything." "Then let's separate first," the old man announced expressionlessly. So, Xiao Yan decisively entered Bai Er's room, and Su Jingqiao was driven back to the master bedroom to live alone. Unexpectedly, this man actually stole her over in the middle of the night. "Ignore Grandpa, he is too old and does not understand the minds of young people." Su Jingqiao sneered and raised his eyebrows. "I am in my prime, and I am not allowed to live as a couple. Is this scientific?" Xiao Yan frowned, and her face flushed. "What are you talking about? You are shameless. Besides, just live apart for a while. When Grandpa agrees, we can be together again." Su Jingqiao said seriously, "That's not possible. I don't want to be separated for a day. Besides, you are going to Shanghai to film a movie soon. How long will it be before we see each other? Are you willing to spend these rare days together?" Xiao Yan was stunned. Come to think of it, this movie is expected to be shot in 2 months from start to finish. Say. I can't bear it. That's right, let's live our lives as we want. Don't pay attention to Grandpa. He is deliberately tossing us. He doesn't sincerely want to agree to our marriage. Ah, no way. Will the old man go back on his word? Oh, 90% possibility. Xiao Yan was stunned immediately. No, I still have high hopes. Hey. Sighing, she suddenly cheered up again. No, as long as there is a glimmer of hope, we can't give up. Husband, I have decided, we separated. Su Jingqiao interrupted her with a cold look without waiting for her to finish. Xiao Yan's expression was solemn. We have an underground affair. What time does Grandpa get up in the morning? I sneaked back before he got up so he wouldn't find out. Su Jingqiao couldn't bear to laugh. He rubbed the top of her hair with his big palm and said angrily, Bao you are so promising. I thought you had some clever tricks. It turns out, tisk tisk. Xiao Yan pursed her lips and pointed at the man's chest. Oh, my IQ is limited. Since I don't want to live apart and can't disobey Grandpa's request, I can only do it secretly. Hee hee. Su Jingqiao took off her pajamas, leaned over and pressed them down. My dear, I did the right thing, just do as you say, let's coax the old man. Xiao Yan took the initiative to stretch out her arms, hooked her arms around the back of the man's neck, raised her body slightly, and put his lips on hers. Night, full of love and affection, endless lingering asterisk. When we came out of the 24-hour fast food restaurant, it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Walking side by side, N.I. Lang asked, Are you going to work tomorrow? Come on, Sumomo answered him casually. When do you have a day off? Can you take a break on the weekend? I'll have next Tuesday off. Today is Thursday, and there are 5 days left. N.I. Lang thought, and said, I'll probably have to go on a business trip next Monday. Can you take the day off? I'll rest before Monday. Sumomo curled her lips and said, You can go on a business trip, why should I take a break? Am I not allowed to chase you for 5 kilometers? N.I. Lang frowned, You can take the weekend off. I don't work on the weekend. Let's go to the stadium. Sumomo looked at him sideways and couldn't help laughing. Do you really want to chase me? Do you think I'm joking? Or, are you just saying casually that you can't actually run down 5,000 meters? N.I. Lang looked serious and spoke in a serious tone. Sumomo rolled her eyes at him. I'm worried you won't be able to run. I was a long-distance running champion in college, did you know? I also participated in the 10,000-meter marathon in City A. N.I. Lang choked, swallowed his saliva, and gave her a thumbs up. You are indeed a female man. You are awesome. My grandpa will definitely like you. Sumomo was surprised at first, and then suddenly realized something. She immediately blushed and scolded him, Am I a tomboy? What does it have to do with your grandpa? Don't talk nonsense. Of course it does matter. My mother listens to my grandpa the most. My grandpa has been fighting all his life, and what he admires most is the character of a soldier. How could he not like you if you are so passionate? N.I. Lang said with a smile. Sumomo was so angry that she kicked him. You still say that? I have nothing to do with you, so stop talking nonsense. N.I. Lang answered while avoiding her shadowless feet. Why doesn't it matter? It will matter when I catch up with you. Humph, can you catch up? This is a long-distance race, not a 100-meter race. Even if a man has the advantage of long legs, it will be greatly reduced over time, Sumomo snorted disdainfully. N.I. Lang curled his lips and smiled casually, We'll find out when we compare. I'm just worried that you will default on your debt. Hey, Sumomo, keep my word. If you succeed in the challenge, I will give you the chance to be my boyfriend. If you fail. Sumomo shrugged and spread her hands, Unfortunately, I can only do it for you. Light the candles. N.I. Lang was amused by her inadvertent cuteness. He pulled her over, put his arm around her shoulders, and said with a non-committal smile, "Okay, then you can take a break, tell me the time, and I'll answer on time." "Hey, you just keep talking, what are you doing with your hands and feet? Keep your distance." Sumomo swayed her body from side to side, refusing his approach. For some reason, as soon as she got close to him, her face felt hot and her ears were so hot that her heartbeat stopped. "They are all speeding up significantly." Ni Lang sighed and had to let her go. "Okay, wait until I win before I touch you again." Sumomo was completely speechless. Ni Lang took out the car keys from his pocket and unlocked the door remotely. "Get in the car and I'll take you home." "Well, I can just ride a motorcycle." "You can go back by yourself," Sumomo frowned. Ni Lang was unhappy. "Did you feel how low the temperature was in the middle of the night? Is it okay to ride a motorcycle?" "What about my motorcycle?" Sumomo bit her lip. She came here to eat in his car. The motorcycle was still parked where she was and she had to go back to get it. "Just throw it over there and we'll talk about it tomorrow." "No, what if it's stolen by a thief? I still have to rely on it to commute to get off work." "You insured it with me." "If it's lost, I'll pay for it." "Hey, I don't want you to pay for it." Facing Sumomo's stubbornness, Ni Lang couldn't help but get angry. "It's such a cold night, you are blowing cold wind, what should you do if you catch a cold and a fever? What should you do if you go home alone as a girl and are targeted by bad guys?" What am I?" "Get in the car. Hurry up. Don't worry about the motorcycle. When I beat you in the 5,000 meters, I will take you to and from get off work." No matter how strong Sumomo was, she couldn't be stronger than a man who practiced family training. She was quickly stuffed into the passenger seat of the sports car. Ni Lang started the engine and drove her away. The next day. It was a very cool morning at the beginning of spring. In the courtyard of the villa, the old man was dressed in loose white clothes and doing Tai Chi leisurely. Xiao Yan's alarm clock was set for 6 o'clock. When the bell rang, she didn't hesitate at all. She quickly got up and got dressed and prepared to escape. While she was in a hurry, the man stretched out his long arms and wrapped them around her slender waist. His voice was husky and sexy in the morning. "Honey, don't leave." "No, it will be troublesome if Grandpa finds out." Xiao Yan was very anxious. After putting on his clothes randomly, he picked up his pajamas and hurriedly put them on again. Su Jingqiao sat up sleepily. Before Xiao Yan could put on her pajamas, he pushed up the bra she had just put on and took one of her delicate breasts into his mouth. His handsome face was buried in her warm chest, and his arms held her, hugging her tightly. She muttered vaguely, "Stay with me for a little longer, just a little while." Xiao Yan took a breath, her body couldn't help but tremble slightly, and her voice changed slightly. "Husband, we don't have enough time." The desire to wake up in the morning was astonishing. It was about to explode. Every cell in his body was screaming. Su Jingqiao turned over, pressed his little wife under him, and eagerly pulled her pajamas. "Husband, I just put it on." Xiao Yan exclaimed, gasping for air as he moved his hands up and down. Don't come, I really can't make enough time." Su Jingqiao changed the kiss, and kept moving her hands. "It doesn't matter, I won't delay, this time will be quick, just this once, please cooperate with me." Soon, Xiao Yan, who was half-dressed, was hummed by the man again. The moment he rushed in, a satisfied sigh came out of her throat, and she could not bear to whisper, "Husband." He was going hard, and the continuous hard impacts made her come continuously, and the temperature in the room gradually increased. When Xiao Yan rubbed her sore waist and finally stepped out of the master bedroom, it was already 6:40. She slunk uneasily to the next door, praying not to run into the old man. Unexpectedly, it didn't work out, and after only 2 steps, she heard the sound of dong-dong footsteps from the direction of the stairs. The old man is back doing Tai Chi. Xiao Yan secretly screamed, and immediately changed from walking to running. Just when she pushed open the door of Belle's room and was about to rush in, the old man's voice happened to sound behind her, "You came back from sleepwalking so early." Xiao Yan was so excited that she clung to the door in fright. She was so ashamed that she didn't dare to look back, and her face was filled with tears. "What are you really afraid of? What's coming? A bad year?" "Yes, he is very talented in running underground parties." The old man mocked unhurriedly and slowly approached. Xiao Yan was like a criminal who fell into the hands of the police, panicked and terrified. "Grandfather!" At this moment, Su Jingqiao's voice intervened in time. Xiao Yan, like a savior, immediately turned around and looked at Su Jingqiao standing at the door of the master bedroom, only to see that he was naked and wearing only a sleeping bag. Pants. Obviously he came out in a hurry and didn't have time to put on his shirt. "Do you want to catch a cold? Go back and put on clothes." The old man naturally saw it, and his beloved grandson reprimanded him eagerly. Su Jingqiao not only didn't listen, but strode over to her. Shen frowned and said, "If you want to scold me, and don't pick on Xiao Yan to bully her. She didn't come to my room shamelessly, it was me who took advantage of her in the middle of the night. After I fell asleep, I secretly hugged her to my bed. Without her by my side, I would have had insomnia and couldn't sleep." Shameless. After hearing this, the old man threw down these 4 words angrily, turned around and walked towards the room where he was staying temporarily. Xiao Yan was about to cry but had no tears. She glared at Su Jingqiao sadly, "It's all your fault. Is it over now?" "Ugh. It's okay." Su Jingqiao took her in his arms, rubbed the back of her head, and comforted her softly, "As long as I don't change my mind, no one can stop me." Xiao Yan still couldn't let go and sighed, "It's really that all our efforts have been wasted. I've let Grandpa down. Why do you care so much about him? You live with me, not with my family. All you have to do is make me happy." Su Jingqiao couldn't bear it, so he hugged her and walked back. "Go back to sleep." Xiao Yan frowned, "Why are you sleeping? It's almost 7 o'clock, aren't you going to work?" "I don't have to clock in to work on time. If there's no meeting in the morning, I can go there at any time," Su Jingqiao said. "Then you can sleep a little longer." "I won't sleep anymore. I'm going to see Belle." Xiao Yan pursed his lips, secretly planning something in his mind. Su Jingqiao couldn't resist her, so he let go and went back to his room to catch up on his sleep. Xiao Yan took a look at Bear. The little girl was still sleeping. After taking a shower, she changed into home clothes and quietly went downstairs. The old man went downstairs at 7:40, intending to read the morning newspaper for a while and walk around the courtyard. Unexpectedly, when passing by the living room, he heard a clanking sound coming from the kitchen, and his exclusive nanny was holding a watering can, watering the flowers on the balcony. "Who is making breakfast?" the old man asked doubtfully. "Is it Akiao's nanny Xiao Li? She doesn't know my taste, so don't cook it randomly." "Master, the person in the kitchen is not Ms. Li, but Ms. Xiao. The nanny is also Asian, with yellow skin and black hair," and replied in fluent English. The old man was stunned, and his eyes couldn't help but fixate in the direction of the kitchen. The sliding door was closed, and through the frosted glass, a small figure could be vaguely seen, lowering his head and busy. The old man stood there for a while without saying anything. He turned around, walked to the sofa, sat down, and picked up the newspaper on the coffee table. After Belle woke up, she didn't find her mother. Someone took care of Sister Lee's breakfast, so she went upstairs to help Belle get dressed and wash up. When she took Belle's little hand and went downstairs, Belle shrank when she saw the old man. After a while, Tong Yanwuji said, "Why hasn't Grandpa left yet?" Snort. The old man flipped the newspaper and made a nasal noise in displeasure. I won't leave yet. I will live here forever, unless I turn into ashes. When Belle heard this, she quickly ran over with her little short legs, stood in front of the old man, pouted her little mouth and said unhappily, then let's fight. If you don't curse others in the future, I will welcome you to live here. Hey, you little girl, do you know who I am? Calculated by generation, I am your great-grandfather. The old man fainted upon hearing this and put down the newspaper and said angrily. Belle persisted and said without fear, no matter who you are, you can't curse. Go, 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 and play aside. The old man waved his hands impatiently, with obvious disgust. Psychological factors. Belle is not his biological great-grandson. Xiao Yan gave birth to another man, so he feels uncomfortable no matter how he looks at it. Belle ran away aggrievedly, wiping the corners of her eyes with her small hands. Aunt Lee, is Belle annoying? No, Belle is a little princess, and we like Belle the most. Sister Lee quickly comforted the little girl, and glanced at the old man helplessly. She was a servant and was not qualified to speak for Belle, but the old man was too. Why? CQS. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 922. 1 Update. Of course your request is not unreasonable at all, but... Zhou Mikang rubbed his young wife's refreshing short hair. I will definitely not agree to anything I can't do. What do you mean? Chu Xia stared at Zhou Mikang blankly. You mean, you want to hide it from me in the future? It's impossible to tell the truth to me. Don't misrepresent what I mean. Zhou Mikang looked at his little wife helplessly. Just because of the unexpected, I can't promise you 100%, but I can assure you that as long as conditions permit, I won't hide it from you. That's pretty much it? Chu Xia glanced at him sideways, but I want to make it clear that if there is a situation like this again and you still hide it from me, I will divorce you. It depends on what you said. Zhou Mikang leaned over and kissed her forehead. Help me go out for a walk. Chu Xia stood still. No escaping, answer my questions first. Zhou Mikang had no choice but to give his young wife a definite answer. I promise you, if a similar situation happens again, I will definitely inform you as soon as possible and I will never hide it from you. TCH, Chu Xia snorted coldly, are you lying again? How did you notify me when you were unconscious? You forced me to say that. Why are you blaming me again? Zhou Mikang looked at his little wife dumbfounded. Okay, you know my character, stop making trouble, okay. Who made trouble with you? Chu Xia glared at him dissatisfied. Look, you didn't take what I said seriously at all. With your attitude, how can I trust you? Then tell me, what should I do to make you believe it? Forget it. Chu Xia sighed. There's no point in forcing this kind of thing. As for me, I don't want to make any demands. It depends on your actions in the future. Anyway, my ugly words are ahead. You can think about it yourself. You ask me, do you also need to ask yourself? What do you ask of yourself? Chu Xia stared at him dissatisfied. You are a grown man, and you still want to compare with me. Isn't it too much for me to look down on you? Master Tongzi was really defeated by his little wife. This ability to mess around is really getting better and better. He reached out and caressed his little wife's slightly protruding belly. Protect them. It means protecting yourself, so that I can really rest assured. Shouldn't you? Done. I did it. Chu Xia looked at the teacher Zongzi with an innocent face. If you don't believe it, I will go for a prenatal checkup tomorrow and show you the data. Let me tell you, there is no healthier pregnant woman than me. Zhou Mikang. What's that expression on your face? Chu Xia pushed the teacher, who was speechless to the extreme. Isn't what I said the truth? Or, you don't want me to go to school, And you want me to stay at home? Of course not. A joke cannot be ambiguous at this time. Jo Mikang quickly explained, although I didn't wake up before, I know everything you said and did. You don't have the same energy now as before. There are some things that you can't worry about, so don't worry about them. Everyone has their own life, and they must learn to solve problems on their own. When I don't know you, they are also living a good life, but it cannot be because they are familiar with you. I put all the responsibilities on your shoulders. This has been going on for a long time. Everyone will regard this dependence as a habit. As far as your current ability is concerned, you still cannot afford such a heavy burden, so you must learn to say no when the time is right. Even if you can grit your teeth and carry it, it will definitely not work for a long time. Chu Xia's expression turned pale. Do you think I'm too involved in Grandpa Wan's affairs? No, Jo Mikang simply returned to the bed and sat down, looking at his little wife seriously. Sit down too, and I will talk to you about this. In fact, I have been worried about this for the past few days. Of course, I'm not worried about Jianji Unming or Wan Yuqian. I'm worried about you. Although you seem to be fine on the surface, in reality, you've been blaming yourself, right? Chu Xia lowered her head, trying to cover up the tears that fell unconsciously, one out of grievance and the other out of emotion. When she first helped, she wanted to make Mr. Wan happy. Later, when I found out about Wan Yuqian, I decided that I wanted both father and daughter to live happily. However, after Qian Jianming's incident happened, although she said nothing on the surface, she kept blaming herself in her heart. She felt that if she had not intervened and let nature take its course, the outcome would not have been so tragic. Even if Wan Yuqian was hurt one day, it would probably not be so serious, right? Moreover, she secretly inquired about Yao Xingqing's identity. I found that she was also a woman who was too pitiful and stupid to describe. She was not very popular at home. Her parents only wanted to use her in exchange for benefits, and they completely ignored her happiness. Living in such a family situation for a long time caused her psychology to become more and more abnormal. She knew that being with Jianji Unming was immoral, but she still persisted. Of course, Yao Xingqing is not worthy of pity. She is entirely to blame for where she is today, but no matter what, it is still a life. Thinking that because of her good intentions, she ended up in such an ending, she couldn't really not mind at all. Hey! Looking at his little wife's appearance, Jo Mikang could not understand her thoughts. The wound had not yet healed, and it was inconvenient to hold her in his arms, so he pointed to the place next to him. Chu Xia sat obediently next to her teacher Zhongzi and sniffed. Jo Mikang, actually I'm fine. I've been trying to calm myself down. My mother also told me that, and Grandpa Wan was afraid that I would think too much, so he also said so. I just can't turn around at once. After all, in my life, no one has ever lost their life because of me. No matter whose cause it is, the cause is mine. I can't not feel guilty at all. I understand. Jo Mikang patted her shoulder gently, but it is most unnecessary to embarrass yourself with this kind of thing. You are smart, you should understand this. It's just that you can't do it all at once. In fact, if you don't care, one day, the person who will be hurt the most may be the most innocent one. People always have to make choices, right? Yes, Chu Xia nodded, raised her head and smiled at him. I found that you understand me quite well. You just woke up and you already know what I am thinking, he. You are my wife, how can I not understand you? Jo Mikang looked at her funny. You think you are very smart and think that I don't understand you at all, right? In fact, I have a rough idea of your personality from the first time we met. Don't think I'm bragging. Think about how much older I am than you and how much I've experienced, and you'll believe me. Otherwise, I probably won't survive now. Chu Xia, I know that you must be particularly worried about me during this period, but I really have to tell you that this task now is definitely safer than before. Anyway, we are fighting as a team. With your help, I definitely know more about the enemy than the enemy knows about us. In the past, I often broke into the enemy camp alone. Without reinforcements, you can only rely on yourself for everything. If you succeed, you will survive. If you fail, there will be one less person in the world, and he may disappear quietly. The most serious time was when I was shot 5 times, one of which hit my left chest. As long as it was just 1 centimeter higher, I would be dead. Of course, this centimeter is definitely not a problem if you have medical conditions. But under the circumstances, without reinforcements and without the ability to continue the action, it was absolutely fatal. But do you know how I survived? Don't tell me that you pulled out the bullet yourself. No matter from any aspect, this is completely impossible. Even if you can do this cruel thing, your body can't bear it. Joe Mikang looked at Chu Xia speechlessly. It seems that you have read too many novels, and you can even come up with such a guess. If I have this ability, wouldn't I become a god? Hee hee. Chu Xia smiled coquettishly. Why don't you let me guess? Of course I will guess in the most unreliable place first, but no matter how you survived, it means you are destined. Big. Yes, that's what everyone said about me. After sighing, Joe Mikang continued, that time, I really thought I was going to die. After using all my strength to kill several of the other party's people, I just lying there looking at the sky, waiting for the final end of life. It's not that I'm weak, I really couldn't move at that time, so I listed down the shocking things that I hadn't completed yet. In the end, I couldn't find a reason to keep going, so I decided, I'm going to accompany Xiaoreo. With this kind of passive abandonment, I didn't know when I fell asleep. If I was unlucky, I would have no choice but to have a bad sleep, and I might be eaten by wild wolves until only the bones were left. But no one expected that I was so lucky. People from the International Rescue Organization happened to walk there and carried me away. When I woke up, I thought I was in heaven. It was also after that time that I decided not to give up my life easily again. No matter when the time comes, I must survive. God has made such an arrangement, and I have to cherish it. Facts have proved that God is really very interesting to me. Finally one day, I met you, and now, I will have a baby that belongs to both of us. This kind of happiness is something I have never dared to think about before. The so-called marriage has always been dispensable in my heart, but because of you, you let me know that there are many kinds of marriage, and I happen to be the happiest one. To be continued. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 923. Second update. I was very sad to hear what you said before, but what you said next moved me very much. I think this is the best compliment for me. Chu Xia smiled happily at Zhou Mixang. So, you must remember, come on, the babies and I are your lifelong responsibility. No matter when the time comes, you can never give up this responsibility, otherwise, you will be the most despised coward. Of course, Zhou Mikang nodded affirmatively. I will definitely do this. Chu Xia, you must trust me 100%. I will definitely not break my promise to you. I will never agree easily to something that I can't do anything about, or something that is ambiguous and uncertain. Even if you are unhappy, I will not agree just to make you happy. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at him speechlessly. Are you reminding me that you were right in not agreeing to me before? It's okay if you insist on thinking so. Anyway, you know, everything I do is to make you happy. Zhou Mikang pointed to the small cup on the table. Bring me some water. Chu Xia blushed, and she actually forgot that the other party was still seriously ill. After all, he had been in a coma for so many days. Speaking of this, Zhou Mikang obviously felt a little weak. He originally wanted to go out for a few steps, but now it was impossible. Chu Xia also saw the tiredness in the eyebrows of the teacher Zhangzi. After the other party finished drinking the water, he stepped forward and helped the other party lie down gently. Before she could say anything, the teacher Zhangzi spoke first, "Go back and have a rest." "Come again." Okay, Chu Xia agreed happily, but couldn't help but say, "Look, I am still very smart and will not insist on staying here. Do you feel now that you were wronged at that time?" "No." Zhou Mikang smiled at her, "You have admitted it yourself and you have been feeling guilty. How can you say that I wronged you?" "Well, stop thinking about it. Go back and have a good sleep at night. Come to see me in high spirits tomorrow." Okay. She pressed a gentle kiss on his forehead, waved to him, turned around and left the ward. Zhou Jingping, who was sitting in a daze on a chair by the door, turned his head when he heard the sound. When he saw it was his youngest daughter-in-law, a smile appeared on his face. "Come on, I'll take you out. Wang Zhongliang is waiting outside." "How can she be so squeamish?" Chu Xia quickly refused and said, "Dad, no need. You should go into the room and accompany Zhou Mikang. It's just a small way, I can do it myself." It was obvious that his daughter-in-law was still a little embarrassed because of what had happened before, so Zhou Jingping didn't force herself. He gave her a few words and turned back to the ward. "Gone. Let's go." Zhou Jingping sat beside his son's bed and sighed, "Just coax her and follow her. One day, you will regret it." No. Zhou Mikang looked at his father seriously. "Chu Xia is not the kind of person who relies on favors and is arrogant." "I didn't say she was arrogant, I just thought she was too childish. Of course, she is very mature in some aspects, but living in a family like ours, being too kind is not a complete advantage. That's better than not being kind. Besides, I have the ability to protect her, so why should I let her become like others? Yamiru is not kind. Does Dad think that kind of person is good?" "I didn't mention her." "Why did you mention her?" Zhou Jingping smiled helplessly. You can't tolerate anyone saying anything bad about Chu Xia now. Anyway, I don't agree with her helping Wan Lao this time. I also heard what you said to her just now. Originally, I could still stick to myself, and as I said it, I just went along with the other party. You will really hurt her if you act like this. If something like this happens next time, will she still help? If the other person is Wan Lao and is sensible, that's fine. But if you meet someone who is confused, don't put all the blame on her. She is only this age, and although she is married and is going to be a mother, after all, her experience is there, and no matter how smart she is, she can't really care less about what others say. If she had a strong heart like you, I would never say no if she did this. But the problem is, she is just an ordinary girl." "Is she ordinary?" Zhou Mikang looked at his father seriously. "Dad, do you think an ordinary girl would have the achievements she has achieved now? Let's not talk about anything else. How far-sighted is Mr. Chi? Many people have tried it before, which one impressed him? But as for Chu Xia, it was just a matter of a few words, and he became Chi Lao's apprentice. And now, Mr. Chi has moved to the school for her. Furthermore, he also wants to stay at the school to teach. These changes are all because of early summer. This is something that many people want to do but fail to do. If she is really like you think, do you think Mr. Chi will do this? Indeed, because of her personality, more and more people are surrounding her, which also determines that there will be more and more chances of trouble finding her in the future. But, is it really because of this that we have to stop her from interacting with these people? Dad, don't forget, when our family encountered difficulties during that time, it was her appearance that solved our family's difficulties. I just said a few words, but I got you so much. Zhou Jingping looked at his son and really didn't know what to say. In fact, he was not blaming his daughter-in-law at all, he was just blaming her for her worry. The son's wish to protect his little daughter-in-law at all times is wonderful, but is that actually possible? It's not certain how long he can stay with her after he recovers from his injuries and is discharged from the hospital. Even if we can wait until the baby is born, what about the future? This life is too long, and no one dares to say what their future will be like. This kind of confident vow is the most undesirable. Dad, I know what you are worried about. Have you forgotten what Grandpa Wan told you? Zhou Mikang gently pushed his father. You agreed at that time, why are you so entangled now? Already. And you also have to believe in Chu Xia, she is constantly improving, and she will become more and more skillful in handling things in the future. Moreover, you have to believe in her eyesight. Look at the friends she makes, which ones are not affectionate and unreliable? Well, I can't tell you. Zhou Jingping sighed, maybe I'm really old. Even though I thought it made sense when Uncle Wan said it, when I think about it, I still can't help but worry. She is your wife. Since both of you think this is the right thing to do, I won't mix it up. It's business for you to recover from your injuries as soon as possible and spend more time with her. R1152. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 924. 1 Update. But Mr. Wan said that after leaving the hospital, he went straight to Jian's house. This was his third visit to Jian's house since his daughter married into Jian's house. The first time was when his daughter got married. Although he and his wife were not very satisfied with their daughter's marriage, since their daughter was determined to marry him, parents still had to give their daughter face. The second time was when his granddaughter was born, and he and his wife came to celebrate their daughter. It was also that time the Jian family's cold treatment of the old couple made his wife resentful, and eventually he became depressed and became ill and passed away. Of course, what makes the wife depressed is not that she is not taken seriously, but because she is worried about her daughter's life in this family, and her daughter cannot listen to her wife's persuasion, which ultimately leads to bitter consequences. The third time, when his wife passed away, he came to inform his daughter. Since then, he has never stepped into the Jian family again, and he and his daughter have almost broken up. He also thought that he will never step into the Jian family again. Unexpectedly, things are unpredictable. This time, it will be like this. In this case, enter Jian's door again. You don't need to think too much to know what kind of criticism and cold treatment he will receive in the Jian family, but for the sake of his daughter and grandson, he must come here. Grandpa. The moment he saw Mr. Jian, Jiandekan walked up to him unconsciously. Dekun. The one who roared was Mr. Jian. Jiandekan's footsteps paused, and then he turned back and looked at Mr. Jian pitifully. Grandpa, this is my grandpa, my biological grandpa. If you still think that you are a descendant of the Jian family, please give it back to me, Mr. Jian said sternly. After a moment of hesitation, Jiandekan lowered his head and returned to his little cousin. The other party grabbed his hand and squeezed it gently, whispering, "Don't be like this, maybe things won't be as bad as you think." Jiandekan twitched the corner of his mouth but said nothing. He only thought that the other party was comforting him. With the control that his grandfather and grandmother had over him for so many years, they would not let him go this time. Then, naturally, he would not have a good attitude towards Grandpa. It's strange to say that he only met his grandfather once, but he felt that he was much more approachable than his grandfather. Without control, he just wants to get close to the other person and stand by the other person's side. Or, is this what has a purpose and what doesn't? He always knew that the reason why his grandparents controlled him so tightly was because they originally wanted to use him to blackmail his mother. Later, when they found that it was useless, they simply made it a habit to control him. Later, because he was the only boy in the younger generation of the Jian family, it became a matter of course. Therefore, he did not dare to think about returning to his mother. When he was young, he had always blamed his mother. Living with his grandparents was definitely not as happy as it seemed on the surface. His grandfather's character was too strict, so that he was always on tenterhooks no matter where he stood or sat, for fear of where he was going. If you don't get it right, you'll be scolded. Grandma is not as serious as Grandpa, but she always listens to Grandpa's instructions. Sometimes she even knows that Grandpa treats her as a target of anger, but she pretends not to notice. Why did he kiss his sister whom he didn't meet often? Because in the entire Jian family, only his sister dared to stand up and speak for him, and unfortunately, her sister was not welcome in the Jian family. He didn't understand it before, but when he got older, he realized that the reason his sister was not popular was not because she was bad, but because she was her mother's daughter. He also heard his grandfather say with his own ears that he could not tolerate his mother's temper and let her really think that she was great and that the Jian family would rely on her to prosper. Therefore, no matter what, he must suppress his mother's arrogance. And Grandpa said all this in front of his second uncle, second aunt, and two aunts. How can everyone be nice to their mother? It is precisely because of Grandpa's partiality that his heart tilted toward his mother little by little. Children in foster care are very smart at an early age. Although he is nominally pampered by his grandparents, in fact, it is no different from foster care. Therefore, he knows very well what he should do. No matter how much he longs to see his mother or how much he likes to be with her, he never shows it on the surface. In fact, when he sees her, he acts coldly and doesn't like to talk to her. Only in this way can his grandparents be less defensive about his mother and give him the opportunity to see his mother a few more times. Therefore, even if it is very hard to pretend, he still forces himself to pretend. I originally thought that as long as he worked hard, one day when he grew up and became capable, he would be able to see his mother more often, but he didn't expect that something like this happened suddenly. He had heard last night that his grandparents were planning to send him abroad so that his mother would never find him again. He especially didn't understand how much hatred his grandparents and mother had, that they would use all their resources to send him to a place he was unfamiliar with. Originally, he was still thinking about what he should do to escape the fate of being assigned. Now, seeing his grandfather's current state, he suddenly felt confident. They kept doing this. In fact, they were forcing Grandpa to help. And her mother's status in the Jian family became so insignificant because her mother always showed weakness, so that it became a habit for her grandparents and father to bully her. Now, as long as Grandpa is willing to be tough, with such random thoughts in his mind, he can't really relax. In fact, he himself is not sure whether Grandpa can help him. Moreover, since he was always locked up at home, he also knew what his grandfather's background was like and where he could help his grandfather and second uncle. However, this is his last chance. He must give it a try. At the critical moment, he will not hesitate to fall out with Jian's family. Anyway, he will never go abroad alone. In that case, he wants to seeing my mother and sister again has become a luxury. God knows how much he longs for the warmth of family. Ever since he was a child, he has been jealous to death when he heard his classmates talk about his parents. At first, he also had troubles with his grandparents, but each time he ended up being imprisoned. Everyone thought that the old man and his wife loved him the most, but in fact, they just used him as a tool to show their authority. Okay, saying this seems to be a bit unfair to Grandma, but no matter what, Grandma never helped him at critical moments. Speaking of which, she was just Grandpa's dependence. While Chiendican was thinking wildly, Mr. Wan had already moved a stool and sat in the center of the hall. He looked at Mr. Qian calmly and said, "After all, we are also in-laws. Is it okay for you to treat guests like this? I don't dare to take it seriously." Mr. Qian said with a gloomy face, "I really don't take it seriously. We don't dare to reach out to your in-laws. We definitely don't dare to reach out to you. I'll make it very clear why I'm here." Mr. Wan pointed to his grandson who was still in a fugue state. "I want to take Dekun to you, Kyung. Even if you have a background, you can't bully people like this, right?" Mr. Qian frowned and looked at Mr. Wan. "Dekun is the only grandson of my Qian family, what's the point of following you? Regardless of whether Ming Ming is present or not, he is the seed of my Qian family and the only heir of my Qian family. It is the responsibility of our Qian family to raise him up. Is it worthy of following you? Of course, you have the background and you can be tough, but we are not afraid either. I don't believe that you can cover the sky with just one hand, and we can't find a reasonable opponent. What you said is so interesting. I just hope that the child will live by his mother's side, and I didn't say that he should be named Wan. Of course, he should be a descendant of the Qian family. Since childhood, you have protected your children by your side and have not allowed them to live with their mothers. Now that your children are in the period of puberty and development, do you really think it is for the good of your children to separate them from mother and daughter like this? I came here today just to talk to you about your children's future development. I hope you can put aside your resentment and selfishness and think more about your children. Dekun is over 14 years old and has full ability to think and judge on his own. What I mean is, let him choose whether he wants to live with you or live with his mother. Of course, I can also assure you that when he grows up and wants to come back to you, I will never stop him. My Wan family will never do anything to bully others. I am now letting Dekun live with us for the sake of my children. I have absolutely no selfish motives of my own. Regardless of whether you believe it or not, what I said is the truth anyway. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I hope it will be resolved in the way I said. I tolerated you bullying my daughter before, but now, when it comes to my grandson, I can never tolerate it anymore. Don't label me as a bully. Go out and talk to anyone and see who they say is bullying. Of course, you can also confuse right and wrong with red lips and white teeth, but I believe that justice is in the hearts of the people. I haven't settled the accounts with you yet, but you came to me and made such a big deal. Mr. Qian sneered twice. Why did my son die? Do you really have no sense of guilt at all? Why should I feel guilty? Mr. Wan looked at him speechlessly. You don't know what your son has done, right? If you hadn't indulged him, would he have had the courage? Over the years, no matter how my relationship with my daughter has been, I am very aware of your family's affairs. Although I didn't know Qian Jianming did such a thing before, I know what kind of character he is. As long as you take care of it a little bit, his life will never be in such a mess. Old man Qian, your son's life was basically ruined by you. If you don't reflect on yourself, you are still blaming this and that. You shameless. You have a good mouth. Mr. Qian stood up angrily. Yes, my son was at fault first, but if your daughter didn't divorce him, would he have lost his life? I have already asked the woman named Yao, and she said that if your daughter hadn't seduced my son and used hard to get tactics to make my son dizzy, she would never have been cruel to my son. She herself said that she had no intention of living alone when she killed my son. Then she went to find your daughter because she wanted to avenge herself and my son. When things got to that point, your daughter was the culprit. I haven't gone to find you yet, but you did some digging and found me here. You said it eloquently and felt that you were really justified. Since you want to make trouble, let's find a place to make trouble and see who is justified. Seeing the obviously crazy old man Qian, Mr. Wan was really speechless. When he left, Zhou Jingping specifically mentioned to him that he had sent people to protect him because he didn't want the Qian family to make trouble with him. He also said with a smile that no matter how shameless the other party was, he would not be that shameless. Now it seems that he really underestimated the other party. I guess if he doesn't come now, old man Qian will really take someone to the hospital tomorrow. He settled the score. To put it bluntly, old man Qian is not afraid of things getting serious now. After thinking about it carefully, he can understand the middle ground. Because he was on the wrong team before, the wrong family suddenly hit rock bottom. He was used to a life of being supported by others, and suddenly fell to the ground. Wasn't it hard for old man Qian to adapt? At times like this, it's natural to grab a straw and not let go. Otherwise, how can you turn over? But the problem is, he actually has the nerve to turn over this matter? Looking at the other party's eyes, Mr. Wan suddenly understood. The other party obviously felt that he definitely didn't want the matter to get into trouble. After all, his son was gone, but his daughter was still alive. As long as the injury was healed and she could still live her life, then, as a father, he naturally wants to settle the matter for the sake of his daughter. Otherwise, regardless of whether it is my daughter's fault or not, life will not be easy if she is criticized in the future. Thinking like this, Mr. Wan felt a little depressed again. No matter how he solved it this time, his daughter would definitely become the subject of discussion in the circle within a period of time. Sometimes, people are so unfair. It is not the wife's fault that a husband has an affair, but men tend to cast gloating eyes on their wives. With such a result, I believe many people are simply watching a show. The more unlucky you are, the happier he will be. Pulling back his thoughts, Mr. Wan stood up and looked at Mr. Qian seriously. I have a few words to say to you. Let's change places. If you have anything to say, just say it here. There is no need to change places. Mr. Qian rejected Mr. Wan's proposal and added, the people sitting here are all juniors of my family, there is nothing they cannot know. That's what you said? Mr. Wan's lips curved into a mocking smile. I hope you don't regret it. Do you think I was scared? Mr. Qian snorted coldly. Go ahead. He believed that he had absolutely no chance of being caught by Mr. Wan. R1152. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 925. Second update arrived. Then I really have to say it. Mr. Wan stared at Mr. Qian. I remind you again, if you don't want to be embarrassed, you'd better talk to me alone, otherwise, you will bear the consequences. You have nothing to say, right? If Mr. Qian was still a little uneasy in his heart, now he really has no worries at all. If Wan really has something to do, he will need to do this again and again. Bluffing him? A soldier never tires of deceit. This old man is so ignorant to play this game in front of him. My mother-in-law, I'm sorry. Mr. Wan smiled apologetically at Mrs. Qian, and nodded at the younger members of the Qian family before finally speaking. Brother Qian should know who Sunaiyu is, right? Mr. Qian's brows moved slightly, but the expression on his face remained unchanged. I don't know, but we are talking about the Qian family now. What are you talking about? What do you think? Mr. Wan looked at him intently and didn't say anything for a long time. His character was there. It wasn't because he was forced to be anxious, but he really didn't want to bring the other party's weakness to the table. Ahem. With a slight cough, Mr. Qian stood up and said, forget it, I'll give you face and talk alone, so that you won't be too vague to say anything here. Don't. Mr. Wan couldn't help laughing. You'd better not give me face, let's talk it over here. Anyway, my request is very simple. Let De Kun return to Yukiang and wait until he is old. At the age of 18, if he wants to go back to the Qian family, he can go back to the Qian family, and if he wants to be in the Wan family, he can go back to the Wan family. Of course, I guarantee you that no matter how he chooses, he will be a descendant of the Qian family. Mr. Qian's face turned red and he couldn't utter even a single word. Old Man Wan was clearly threatening him when he spoke like this. The key is, whether he accepted the move or not, Old Man Wan had already said the words, and his face had already it's lost. He had the intention to let it go, but was afraid that the other party would tell him in more detail, so just giving in would be tantamount to admitting in front of the juniors that he had accepted the threat. Okay, I promise. Before Old Man Qian could figure out the outcome, Old Mrs. Qian spoke up first. She looked at her grandson and said, "Deacon, if you are willing to go back with your grandpa, go pack your luggage." Yes, unexpectedly, there would be such a dramatic result. Qian Deacon responded and quickly ran to his bedroom, fearing that if he was too late, the old lady would regret it. Anyway, he has spent enough time in this family. Just now, he has been thinking about what to do to get his grandparents to relent. Although Grandpa has not relented yet, Grandma has already said this in front of everyone. Grandpa didn't refute quickly, which meant he agreed. So, if he doesn't leave now, when will he wait? As for what his grandfather had done and what he was alluding to, he was not interested at all. Seeing her son appearing in the ward with her father, Wan Yuqiang's eyes widened in surprise. It wasn't until her son came to the bedside, took her hand and called her mom that she came back to her senses. "Dad, did they agree?" "Yes," Mr. Wan responded, "De Kun will live with us from now on. When he turns 18, he can choose whatever he wants. I want to be with my grandpa, mother, and sister all the time." Qian Deacon looked at Wan Yuqiang seriously. "Mom, you won't dislike me, right?" "How could Mom dislike you?" Wan Yuqiang immediately said she cried so hard that she never expected that the matter would be resolved so smoothly. She thought that even if De Kun could return to her, it would take a long time. "Dad, why did they agree?" Wan Yuqiang looked at her father and asked. After coughing lightly, Mr. Wan answered the question, "Where is Yanyan? She hasn't come back." "Yes, why hasn't Yanyan come back yet?" Wan Yuqiang's mind was suddenly drawn to her daughter, and she looked at her son anxiously. "Sister sent you home and left?" "Yes. After my sister sent me to Qian's house, she went directly to find her grandparents. She hoped that her grandparents would agree to let me return to my mother. As a result, my grandfather scolded my sister and said that she would not be allowed to enter Qian's house again in the future. And then sister left." Qian Deacon slapped his forehead fiercely. "Did sister go to see Dad?" He looked at Mr. Wan anxiously. "Grandpa, my sister has always been timid, but now she actually goes to see Dad by herself." "I'm fine." Seeing her father looking at her, Wan Yuqiang said quickly, "Dad, you and Deacon go to greet Yanyan." Deacon, as soon as the grandfather and grandson left the hospital gate, they bumped into Qian Yan. When she saw her brother appearing in front of her again, Qian Yan was surprised. You ran away secretly." "Still. My grandpa went to Qian's house. I can live with my mother from now on." Qian Deacon quickly told his sister the good news and asked, "Sister, where have you been?" Really, ignoring answering his brother's question, Qian Yan hugged Mr. Wan's arm. "Grandpa, how could they agree to you? They won't regret it, right? Deacon can really live with us in the future already." Mr. Wan nodded. "Well, from now on Deacon can live with us openly and they will not regret it. Of course, if they really dare to regret it, I will really make them regret it." "Sister, where did you go just now?" Qian Deacon continued to ask. "I didn't go anywhere, I just wandered around." Sighing, Qian Yan smiled bitterly. "I feel that I am very incompetent and can't help with anything. Seeing my mother sad, I really hate myself for being incompetent." "Sister." Qian Deacon stared at Qian Yan intently. "Did you go to Feng Hui for help?" "No. No. You look like you, sister, why are you so disobedient?" Chiendakan rarely gave his sister a serious face. It's not like you don't know what kind of person he is, even if he is really willing to help. When I returned to my mother, I didn't care. Sister, if you associate with him again, don't blame me for being a ruthless younger brother. Anyway, as long as I discover the fact of your association, I will never recognize you as my sister. Although Mr. Wan didn't know what the truth was, he heard some ins and outs from the conversation between the siblings. Obviously, the one named Feng Hui was a boy, and a not-so-good boy at that. At this moment, his mind was also racing very fast. Unfortunately, after thinking about it, he didn't expect that the family named Feng had a close relationship with the Qian family and could be a constraint on the Qian family. I did plan to go find him, but when I arrived at his door, I didn't go in. Qian Yan explained while looking at Mr. Wan. Grandpa, what De Kun said about Feng Hui was that Grandpa wanted to the person I married, however, my mother has already rejected. What's that for? Mr. Wan asked. His father is now the deputy director of the Beijing Water Conservancy Bureau. My grandfather used to have a good relationship with him. After the incident at home, many people broke off their relationship with my grandfather. Only he still has contact with my grandfather. Grandpa just wants me to marry Feng Hui. After a pause, Qian Yan smiled bitterly. Of course, Feng Hui is not normal. He has a bad eye. Mr. Wan. He has a new understanding of old man Qian's shamelessness. However, if you think about it carefully, it is not surprising that old man Qian would do such a thing, even if his own son died. Where is the person who can be using the granddaughter? On the contrary. Thinking of Mrs. Qian, Mr. Wan sighed secretly. After Mr. Wan left, Mr. Qian and Mrs. Qian returned to the bedroom. Why don't you speak? Looking at his wife who was changing clothes silently, Mr. Qian frowned. If you have anything to ask, just ask it quickly. Don't be too yin or yang, it will make people uncomfortable. What are you asking? Mrs. Qian smiled at him. Who is Sunaiyu? I knew you must have fallen into his trap. Mr. Qian gritted his teeth bitterly. We have been husband and wife for life, and you actually believe him or not me? What did I say? Mrs. Qian looked at her husband calmly. I just followed your words. What do you mean by being so excited? Pretend, keep pretending. Mr. Qian glared at him. Do you know what I hate most about you? It's your ability to pretend. You talk about things and live as a family, always hiding them. What's the point? If we didn't pretend, we might not be able to survive long ago. Taking a long breath, Mrs. Qian looked at Mr. Qian. Or do you also want to follow the same path as your son? What are you talking about? Mr. Qian glared at the old lady. Forget it, I'm too lazy to talk to you. I'm tired and going to bed. I don't have the time to chat with you here. Mrs. Qian glanced at him, turned around and left the bedroom. Even at this age, she couldn't be calm when encountering this kind of thing. Perhaps it was because of this reason that after her son's accident, she did not particularly blame her daughter-in-law. Moreover, logically speaking, she could not blame her daughter-in-law at all. But, does old man Wan know who revealed this news to him? The little granddaughter asked her, is it worth it? She also asked herself, to be honest, she didn't know if it was worth it, but she knew that if she didn't do it, she would regret it in the future. The mistakes she made can no longer be changed, so let her make up for them from now on. When she returned to the room, she saw Mr. Qian put down the phone in a panic. Who did you call? The tone sounded gentle, but it was obviously sarcastic. Mr. Qian's face immediately turned red. Why do you care so much? You don't have enough to care about the family affairs. It's just a casual question. Are you so nervous? Do you feel guilty? Old Mrs. Qian sighed as she spoke. We have been married for a lifetime. Can you stop doing this kind of thing that makes me look down on you? or 11:52. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read, please bookmark. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 926. First update, what have I done to make you look down upon? Mr. Qian looked at his wife sternly, tell me clearly, what have I done to make you look down on me? Yang Miking, let me tell you, if you can't tell me why, don't think I'm rude. What I hate most in my life is when others wrongly accuse me. You know this. You really want me to tell you? Mrs. stared at her wife with a disappointed look on her face. At this time, I have caught the evidence of your dealings with that woman with my own hands, and you are still pretending to be innocent in front of me. My heart is really strong. As she spoke, she walked to the phone, pressed speakerphone, and then pressed redial. You, what are you doing? Mr. Qian grabbed the phone anxiously and hung up quickly. What are you going to do to make trouble between us? Are you afraid? Old Mrs. Qian looked at him sarcastically. If you are afraid, just say it clearly. There is no need to pretend. I just redialed the number you just dialed. You are so scared, and you still dare to say that you didn't do it. What is something to look down upon? We have been husband and wife for more than 50 years. If I didn't know you well, these years would have been wasted. I usually pretend to be deaf and dumb, but it doesn't mean that I don't know anything. Just because I tolerate you doesn't mean I'm afraid of you. Old money man, do you treat yourself too much like a dish? Do you think I can't live without you? What nonsense are you talking about? Mr. Qian stared at his wife angrily. Listen to these nonsense words you said. You said it yourself. We have been husband and wife for more than 50 years. So now you say something, don't you feel ashamed of our relationship for more than 50 years? Yes, I was on the phone with Sunei just now. I just wanted to tell her that my interactions with her were normal. She was taken advantage of by some people, so she must not talk nonsense and fall into someone's trap. As a result, you came in. I was afraid that you would misunderstand, so I quickly hung up the phone. If you were asked to call back again, how would I explain it to you? Could it be that some people who don't wish me the best are misunderstanding me and throwing dirty water on me? Even my wife believed what others said and poured dirty water on my ears. If you think this is appropriate, call Sunei right now. If I stop you, I am the grandson. Really, you call now. Mrs. Qian glanced at Mr. Qian briefly, then actually picked up the phone and pressed redial. Mr. Qian's arrogant face was frozen there. When he came to his senses, the phone had been connected. Zheng Zhang. Miss me again? Old Mrs. Qian glanced at Old Man Qian with a half smile. He said, he didn't miss you, I miss you. I am Yang Miking, Qian Zhenjiang's real wife. Do. The blind tone of the phone hanging up continued to ring. The old couple stood there, neither of them speaking. The old man, who is as thick-skinned as Qian, can no longer say that he and Sunei have no problems at this moment. If it's really not the case, the other party picks up the phone and asks the other party if they miss you, haha. What I'm wondering is, why did she answer the phone and call you by your name? Old Mrs. Qian smiled at Mr. Qian. Isn't she afraid that someone else happened to answer the phone? In other words, she installed a phone and only left your phone number. In fact, this is basically a dedicated line between the two of you. Qian Zhenghong is extravagant enough. In this regard, my son really can't compare with you. Although he has been on good terms with Yao Xingqing for many years, in most cases, Yao Xingqing is still paying for him. You're good, but you always say you don't have enough money, so you help this and that. After working for a long time, all the help is here. Hey, we have been married for so many years, why didn't I realize that you are still a passionate child? But, did your seed sprout in the wrong place? We have been married for so many years. When did you really value my opinion? When did you do this for me? Mr. Chien's lips moved, but he didn't make a sound for a long time. Did I get everything right? Old MRSGN looked disappointed. To be honest, what she just said was all just speculation. For so many years, she didn't know what her husband was like outside. It's not that she doesn't know who the other party is, it's just that she has always turned a blind eye and only occasionally hit the other party with a few words. In her opinion, it is indeed disappointing for a man to make mistakes in this regard, but it is not unforgivable, and it is not good for everyone to break the relationship. Therefore, she was willing to pretend to be confused and maintain the superficial peace, but today, her husband's behavior disappointed him so much that she could no longer pretend to be confused. Mei Cheng. Since marrying his wife, Qian Zhenghong has never seen his wife be so cold to anyone. Although he has a family outside the home, he has never thought of separation from his wife. At this moment, he really panicked. Don't worry, I won't divorce you. At this age, even if I don't care about my own face, I still have to care about my children's face. After a long sigh, MRSGN's face showed a lack of interest. Qian Zhenghong, I'll let you go from now on, even if you want to move to that woman's house, I won't say anything. Mei Cheng. Mr. Qian looked at his wife in panic. Mei Cheng, please don't be like this. The love between our husband and wife is unmatched by anyone. It doesn't make sense for me to leave her alone now. I can promise you that I will try to have as little contact with her as possible in the future. You. After hesitating, he still made his request, don't let the juniors know, okay? Ha. MRSGN looked at him funny, do you think the juniors don't know? Are you too naive? If my guess is right, probably no one except De Kun knows about this. So Qian Zhenghong, if you care about the opinions of the juniors and don't dare to have anything to do with me, then there is no need. I, Yang Miking, can tell you so clearly that I have really thought about this matter. It's up to you what to do. Mr. Qian breathed a sigh of relief quietly. He could not say that he had no feelings for his old wife. After all, they had been married for more than 50 years. However, what he cared more about was his status and face in the family. No matter whether the juniors know it privately or not, at least if he doesn't break up and get divorced at such an old age, he can pretend that nothing happened. Moreover, he is also taking chances. As long as the matter has not reached the final stage and there is no concrete evidence, it is an ambiguous matter. The juniors may be dubious about the rumors. From now on, as long as he pays attention and doesn't let others find any excuses, it's not impossible that this matter will be gradually forgotten. Old MRSGN had been observing her husband's expression. After living together for so many years, any changes in his mood could not be hidden from her eyes. The remaining reluctance finally disappeared completely in the other's calculating eyes. At this moment, she really didn't want to see each other, so she simply got up and walked out. Mr. Qian grabbed her anxiously, where are you going? Guest room. No, Mr. Qian held her tightly, what will the juniors think if you do this? Feeling that his tone was a bit harsh, he quickly slowed down, Mei Ching, we have been married for a lifetime, this now that we are old, let's stop making trouble and let outsiders laugh at us, okay? I do not mind. Mei Ching, you can't be so selfish. Am I selfish for not helping you with your acting? Old MRSGN looked at him speechlessly, Qian Zhenghong, you are the only one who can bully others so confidently. My face is not bright, and your face doesn't look good, right? Mr. Qian suppressed his smile and looked at MRSGN with a serious face, a person has a face, and a tree has a bark. What on earth are we going to do? Do it, you can figure it out yourself. After saying that, he let go and sat back on the sofa. MRSGN glanced briefly, turned around, opened the door and quickly stepped out. Mr. Chien just stood there. He thought that for this reason, MRSGN would definitely not dare to go out. No, he quickly got up and walked to the door. At the same time, MRSGN opened the door and came back. Got it? He just said that he couldn't have made a mistake in his estimation, and there was a look of satisfaction on his face. There is something I want to express my opinion on right now. Old MRSGN looked at him indifferently. Kun, he should go back to his mother. Don't think about any other ways to bring him back. Don't blame me for not reminding you. As a father, at this time, you must be clear about what you should think about and what you shouldn't think about. If the younger generation is already heartbroken by the time you wait. The old lady spread her hands and said, "You don't need to do the rest." Shall I say it again? Everything I do is for the development of the family. Even if you are angry with me, you should not confuse right and wrong and frame me. Mr. Chien stared at the old lady angrily. If you don't want me to hate you, just don't do such things that harm others and don't benefit yourself. It seems that it doesn't matter if you really break up. MRSGN sighed. Chien Zhenghong, after all, we have been husband and wife for more than 50 years. There are some things that you should not do too much, otherwise you will regret it. It must be you and not me. You. Mr. Chien took a long breath and then said, Yang Miking, I have retreated again and again. You have made it clear that it is not over until you push people to a dead end, right? Whatever you want, you can do whatever you want, leave if you want, leave if you want, as long as you feel you won't regret it, do whatever you want, I will never keep you again. Are you angry from shame? MRSGN looked at the other party speechlessly. Chien Zhenghong, do you think the method of provoking generals will be useful to me? If you have the ability, if you provoke me again, I will definitely do what you want. Mr. Chien's lips moved, but in the end he did not dare to spit out another word. He could see that the old lady was not joking, so he could never afford to make this joke. To be continued. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 927. 2 days later, Zhou Mikang was discharged from the hospital and went straight to live in a courtyard in the capital. In Chuxia, she would go home as soon as possible after class every day to be with her teacher, Tongzi. This was the decisive condition for her teacher, Tongzi, to agree to her staying in school. The next day, Wan Yuqian, accompanied by Qian Yan and Qian Dekan, attended Qian Jianming's funeral. Not wanting to leave a legacy to her daughter, Mr. Wan had no choice but to agree to her request. The person who was alive a few days ago turned into a small, boxy box in the blink of an eye. Although she had accepted this fact before, Wan Yuqian was still a little unbelievable when she actually faced it. The couple had been together for more than 20 years, and although they had many unpleasant memories, at this time, the only thing they were thinking about was the good of the other person. Especially, the other person died because he was thinking about himself. Feeling the lag in Wan Yuqian's steps, Qian Yan held her arm harder. No matter what her father did to her, the hatred would be gone when he was gone. As a daughter, she felt very heavy. Relatively speaking, Qian Dekan has the most complicated mood. Once, what he looked forward to most was to live with his mother. Now, this wish has come true, but it came true under such circumstances. Along the way, the three mothers have attracted the attention of many people. Speaking of it, they are the real victims, but in fact, they have become outsiders. Mr. Qian looked at his daughter-in-law and grandchildren with an indifferent expression. After they finished the ceremony, he turned around and walked out of the morning hall. Everyone was stunned. This clearly showed that they did not regard the mother and son as Qian's family. Such a blatant slap really surprised them. Among other things, Qian Dekan is the grandson of the Qian family. For a family with only a small amount of money, are they really willing to abandon their grandson? MRSGN sighed slightly. He nodded at Wan Yuqiang Niang and the others. Qian Yan hesitated and whispered, "Grandma, my mother's body has not recovered yet. The doctor only allowed 2 hours of leave. Let's leave first. Deacon and I will come back to see you later." "Go back," the old lady sighed again. "Yuqiang, if you have this intention, that's enough. Take good care of yourself and call home if anything happens." Since marrying into the Qian family, MRSGN had been kind to her only a handful of times, but Wan Yuqiang just stood there blankly. "Thank you, Grandma." Qian Yan quickly thanked her mother. "My mother was so touched that she didn't know what to say." "Don't worry, Grandma, my brother and I will take good care of my mother and let her recover as soon as possible." "Grandma." Qiandikan, who had been sullen all the time, finally took the initiative to say hello to MRSGN. "You." MRSGN shook her head helplessly. Waved to the three mothers. Wan Yuqiang took her children and left. No matter how much she wanted to say, now was not the time. She had been here before. Having given it to him, that's all I can do. As for what everyone thinks, whatever they think, let them do it. No one else knew about her divorce from Qianji Unming. Therefore, it is completely foreseeable how everyone will talk about her afterwards. Will others still think highly of a woman who is so disliked by her husband's family that she cannot even participate in the funeral? Fortunately, she returned to her father's side, otherwise, the future of her children would have been ruined by her. But then again, if her father hadn't been the one to rely on, she wouldn't have been able to take this step. As soon as the three mothers walked out of the door, Mr. Wang quickly got out of the car. He and Wang Zhongliang waited outside for fear that the Qian family would bully them. Although Zhou Jingping told him that the matter had been resolved and the Qian family would not do anything to him, nor would they do anything to Wan Yuqiang and Qian Yan Qiandikan, he still couldn't let go. Seeing his daughter's slightly pale face, Mr. Wan sighed and nodded to his grandchildren. After the three mothers got in the car, he got into the passenger seat and said to Wang Zhongliang, "Let's go." The car drove back to the hospital. Wan Yuqiang lay back on the bed and closed her eyes. "Mom! Mom!" The calls of her children brought a glimmer of light into Wan Yuqiang's heart, which was as blocked as a ball of cotton wool. After a moment, she opened her eyes and forced a smile. "I'm just tired and want to take a rest." Then she turned around. Looking at his father, "Dad, I'm sorry, I made you worry again." "Hey." Mr. Wan sighed and took a long breath. "It's a good thing that you are willing to talk. Dad can understand your mood." After a pause, he added, "Yanyandikan and I are going outside, please be quiet for a while, and if you have anything to do, knock on the table so we can hear you." "No need." Wan Yuqiang shook her head. "Dad, I just heard about it before, but now I see it with my own eyes. If I had a little fantasy before, now I have to face reality, and it is inevitable that I can't help but feel overwhelmed. I feel much better now that you are with me all the way here. Dad, don't worry, I will get better as soon as possible. The past is the past, and for the sake of my children, I can't be confused again." "That's right." Mr. Wan looked at his daughter with relief. "It's your blessing and the children's blessing that you can really think about it, and Dad will feel less guilty. During this time, seeing you lying on the bed like this makes Dad feel really uncomfortable. To be honest, Dad has been looking forward to this day for all these years, but he never thought that when this day actually comes, it will be like this. Dad thought about letting you leave the Qian family, but never thought of it in this way. No matter how bad Qian Mingming is, he shouldn't end up like this, but if it drags on. Dad, I have figured this out. If it drags on any longer, I might be the one who leaves this world, and or, to put it mildly, Yanyan will really become a child that no one cares about. Qianji Unming." Sighing, Wan Yuqian continued, he is actually a selfish and cowardly man, and he has always lived according to his own preferences. When he married me, he did like me, but the most important thing was that I could bring him what he wanted. But incidentally, I regarded his short-term kindness to me as love. Being with him was wrong from the beginning, which naturally doomed my life to tragedy. Of course, this also has something to do with my character. If I don't make my own decision when I realize the mistake, I won't be able to do it in the wrong place. The road goes further and further. The current result is that the punishment is too severe for Qianji Unming. However, if he had not lived too selfishly, he would not have been punished like this. Speaking of which, Yao Xingqing was more pitiful than him. I have lived a very difficult life these years, and Yao Xingqing has definitely not been as comfortable as me. At least, I don't have to suffer all the cynicism, and she, in addition to worrying about her relationship with Qianji Unming, also has to be looked down upon by others all the time. Dad, if you can, try to make her life as comfortable as possible in it. It's not just me being a woman, but I really want to. And I believe that she is the most miserable person in her life right now. Okay, Mr. Wan agreed to his daughter's request. In this tangled love triangle, it's impossible to say exactly who is right and who is wrong, but the one who is most wrong is definitely Qianji Unming. As for Yao Xingqing, he didn't think she was completely innocent. No matter what, it was unforgivable for her to destroy other people's families, especially when the other person was a father with 2 children. Moreover, when she was completely desperate for the other party, she even thought about killing her more innocent first wife. From this aspect, it is definitely not worthy of forgiveness. But his daughter made it, especially since it was the first request made by his daughter after he reconciled with her. Naturally, he would not refute her. Of course, he would not be too hasty about this matter. He will wait until his daughter really calms down and can make a correct judgment before doing this. 7 days later, Wan Yuqian was discharged from the hospital. Qian Yan had moved all the couple's luggage to the courtyard rented by Mr. Wan before Wan Yuqian was discharged from the hospital. Qian Dekan's luggage had been moved there before, so on the day of discharge, is also the first day of official family reunion. After a few days of adjustment, Wan Yuqian has truly recovered, or she may still think of her husband in private, but it can be seen from her look that she has really come out of it. As for Yao Xingqing, she was not joking. On the day she was discharged from the hospital, she insisted on seeing Yao Xingqing. After not seeing each other for 10 days, Yao Xingqing completely collapsed. She is actually about the same age as Wan Yuqian, and in terms of appearance and temperament, she is slightly higher than Wan Yuqian. But now that they are standing together, she is obviously more than 5 years older than Wan Yuqian. Most of her black hair has turned white. It can be seen that she has been having a particularly bad life during this period. When she was brought to the interview room, she lowered her head and said nothing. As soon as she entered the door, she glanced at Wan Yuqian. The gap between the two sides was too obvious. At this moment, she couldn't tell how she felt. Anyway, she just didn't want to look directly at the other person. I went to Qian Jianming's funeral. After a pause, Wan Yuqian continued, I don't say this to show off to you, I want to tell you that when I said goodbye to him, I also said it for you. A few words. Yao Xingqing quickly glanced at her. What I'm telling you is the truth. No matter what, you have been with him all your life, and you almost risked your life for him. Let's not say whether he is worth what we do now, and just live well. Sighing, Wan Yuqian looked directly at her. Yao Xingqing, in my impression, you are someone who will never admit defeat. But now, I am quite disappointed with you. You are just a man, but you have been tortured to this point. If you look in the mirror, you should understand why I say this. If I had a father like you, I could stand and talk without back pain. Yao Xingqing looked at her mockingly, you are here to demonstrate to me, right? Don't say it so nicely. If it wasn't for this purpose, what would you be doing here? You know clearly that I can't survive, but come and let me live well, haha. She sneered a few times and continued, even if I die, I have nothing to regret, and you don't need to bother me. To be continued.